for you all and for the thing, or this way for me?
The other way. Always
Okay.
portrait. Always portrait. Yep.
Thank you.
You got it, buddy. I got your 6, man.
Yoo-hoo.
All right. We are live with the first ever live Jim Gale show. So today is extremely exciting for Jim and I, as you know, we've been doing shows that have been released every Friday, but we've just had so many incredible guest opportunities that we decided no point in saving those things for one-time weekly releases. Let's get live and start doing a whole lot more of this so we can bring more value to the audience of the Jim Gale Show and anybody out there who is interested in learning about what Food Forest Abundance is up to and the Freedom Farm Academy and all of the things that it takes today to be prepared for an excellent life where you're a prosumer and not just a consumer. So, Jim, great to see you, my man.
You too, brother. I want a big thank you to Chelsea and yourself and Tim and everybody on our team who's helping to layer in all of these important strategic pieces of the puzzle. It's so important. And, you know, this is a freedom puzzle and everybody has a piece of the puzzle. And so anybody out there who's got a piece of the puzzle, bring it.
Yeah, absolutely. We want to showcase any opportunities we can that will help inside this freedom puzzle. And today there are so many things that are out there that just need to be brought to light. And we are really excited about being able to do that. And in the meantime here with our inaugural episode, we've been able to secure a good friend of mine, someone I've known for over 10 years now. And it's really phenomenal how we've circled back together, watching this guy really sharing his patriotism and his love for his country, the United States, and what he's been able to do from a business perspective, helping families. It's just an honor to be here with you. And Steve Morgan, welcome to the show, my friend. And thank you so much for joining us here on the first live episode of the Jim Gale Show. It's great to see you.
Wow. Honored, love what you two stand for. 100% behind both of you. And thank you for the opportunity just to add to what you guys are currently doing. You know, Food Forest Abundance, love it, love everything about it. If you're watching today, trust me, tap into these two guys. They got it down and they can set you up for success.
Outstanding, man. And, you know, like I said, we're honored. And first of all, I want to thank you for your service in the military. I know you had 12 years in the United States military, many of those 12 years as combat vet, special forces, you know, working right in the real trenches. And thank you for what you did there.
Yeah. That might be a whole nother episode, but yeah, what an honor to serve. You kind of never stop serving. It's just at a different capacity, right, Jim? I mean, we talked about that the other day, and you know, I did raise my right hand. I did go off to some locations that you taught me a lot of value about being, you know, ready, battle ready. We call it battle ready, and I love it because it instilled this belief system inside of me to always be ready for something that's thrown at you. And guys, we all of you, everyone watching today has got to understand you've got to be ready for things, obstacles, circumstances that come your way, because they will come our way. So yeah, it was great. Met a lot of great people, a lot of Matthews, a lot of Jims. When I was in the military, people that have that mindset of always being prepared. And I have zero regrets, but I want to make sure that I share one important thing. When I raised my right hand, I made a commitment. To my fellow patriots that I would support and defend the Constitution of the United States against foreign and domestic, you know, and I still uphold that. That sworn oath never leaves you. So I'm just a different warrior. I'm a different soldier these days. I'm still fighting. I hate to say this, but I'm going to say it anyways because I know I'm in good company. That, you know what? Unfortunately, we are dealing with some domestic issues that I'm fighting every day in a battle. And I know Jim and Matthew, you guys are doing that as well. So honored to be here.
Well, thank you so much, Steve, for everything, and especially stating that, because that's fundamental for people to become aware of right now, that the enemies are domestic, and sometimes they're so domestic that they're in our heads, right? Governmente, the psyop that's in our minds, is the most domestic enemy. But here's the deal: the best way to win against this enemy is to simply turn our energy towards nature, towards God systems and sources systems, and then find ways to get the enemy out of your head and replace that enemy with love and joy and courage and beauty. Would you agree?
Oh, 100,000%. You know, and the crazy thing about being in, we call them, spec comms, or spec ops. We talk about special groups, but the crazy thing is, man, we learn intel, we're taught intel, we're taught to look for certain things that can be used against us. Well, I tell you, that's a very unique trait that when you learn it, you can't unlearn it. That's why you and Matt are so passionate, because you see things that the average person doesn't see. Well, it's the same thing that we're taught in combat, to be aware. Be aware of your surroundings. Be aware of the offensive. Be aware of the defense. You're always aware. And man, I'll tell you what, I'm aware. So
Man.
I'm aware.
So I'm curious, was NLP, neuro linguistic programming, one of those things that you learned about?
No, it was strategic, offensive reading, knowing your enemy, knowing how to, read a situation before you go into it.
Gotcha.
It's
Okay.
learning your surroundings, knowing knowing your opponent, right?
Yes.
And I hate to say it, but I'm going to say it anyways. It's the government. I mean, the government's our opponent. I mean, they're working against us. They're not for you. If you're watching today, trust the three of us.
Yeah.
The government, Canada, US, they're not for you. They're against you. And you've got to know that opponent. You've got to understand, maybe I'm getting ahead of myself, but you got to understand that it's up to you. You have the abilities. You need to be aware of your future and how you can protect it and sustain it.
Yes, that is absolutely right on. And neurolinguistics is, if there's a document out there that really helped me see the NLP of the whole situation, the programming, and it's called Silent Weapons for Quiet Wars. It was written 70 or 80 years ago, and it now has surfaced. And how it came to be and how it surfaced, to me, is irrelevant. The fact that this document has been in the public circulation, that calls out the Rockefellers by name, and it talks about how they have commissioned these studies so they can control the mind of the asset, which they consider us simply a form of energy, and how to control the energy, the current, the currency, the flow is such an epic psyop. And that is, of course, through governmente, which they control all of the pillars of governmente.
Yeah. Perfect.
It is such a fascinating topic, because how we spend our lives is opposite of that, right? There's nowhere is that stuff being told to you. You have to discover it by seeking it out yourself and keeping an open mind. However, very early in our life, we are pushed into a system that's designed to close your mind off and make you into a good, do what you're told citizen of the population. And that governmente system, which did design many of these things that we operate inside of, has done a phenomenal job of putting us into this box and closing our minds up. And it's only now that a lot of people, because of the pandemic, it's now opened their eyes in a different way, because they've had someone around them be injured from certain things. They've had death happen because of stuff. It's made them go, something isn't right here. I can feel it. So I'm going to start to look and ask some questions, which now, in my opinion, has really fractured that veil and caused more people to begin to dig and dig and dig. And the internet's gotten away from them. The internet has provided us with the resources now to share information very, very quickly to other people, to help them discover more things that are actually true and have been hidden from us up to this point because they had the resources to hide it, right? The television wasn't a phenomenal tool for programming, hence why it's called a programming and a television, right? The language, it's no mistake on why these things are told or they're called what they're called. And Jim, what you and I have been recently connected to with the Sovereign's Way and some of that information that Greg and John go through, it's just mind blowing. I started going through that last night and learning, the law of mankind, not the legal system, and how to actually assert your rights as a man or a woman and not a citizen. And, what happens when, just as an example, if you get married and you sign that contract, you're now in a three-way relationship with whom? The state. Or if you do it, what should have happened, where you had a wedding and you got into wedlock, that was a reunion between you, man and woman, not the state. And the important differences between all of those things. So I've been going on a little bit of a rant there, but it's just the words are so important. The words, got to learn them.
Exactly.
So, Stephen, when you say prepared, let's help our audience know what that means in your life. What does preparedness mean to you?
I guess the best word to describe it is ready, like ready. When I ask people, are you ready? Well, they say, what do you mean? Well, right when that answer flows out of someone's mouth, probably a good indicator that it's 90% that they're not. So I just use the word prepared. Don't know why, but it's more fitting. Are you prepared? And the average home isn't. And that bothers me. That bothers me in a way that I want to make sure that doesn't happen. You take the pandemic or scamdemic, which is what I like to refer to it as. It's a classic example. 93.6% of people were not ready for that. They weren't ready for it. I mean, the news did a horrible job. The media is a horrible platform. They didn't show a fraction of the reality of the impact that it had on Canadians, Americans, and pretty much the world. So then I started asking myself, well, people ask me, well, why prep, right? You rewind 20 something years ago when I was prepping people and I was teaching, being prepared. When I established my name, a prepared patriot, people literally thought, you're crazy. You're way out there, mister. Like, ha, ha, ha. Like, I got so many laughters. Now, how the roles have reversed was very comforting to me, because now they're saying, hey, you remember that book you wrote? Can I get a copy of that? Hey, can you show me a few things? Hey, I want to listen now. And that's the scary part. That's the scary part about being not ready or not prepared, because you got to understand things are going to happen. They're going to happen. Jim, I know where you live. You know where I live. Matt, I know where you live. Everything happens everywhere, just different things. But you should always be ready, or you should always be prepared. So why prep? Like, why prep? Why? Well, the psychological value alone, you can't even put a price tag on. Think about this. The only time that you fail to prepare is if you fail to prepare. Right? You take the fires that happened in California a few years ago, the Paradise Fire. 99% of the people were not prepared. And what it did is it wreaked havoc on every single one of them. I know some of them personally. I saw the devastation. Now, if I have the opportunity, I can show you a few things how you can always be ready for anything that comes your way.
Yeah, please do. We want our audience to get actionable solutions. So please do whatever you think the audience will benefit most from.
Awesome. Well, my motto started in the military. I was taught in basic training. I had a wonderful drill instructor. I say that funny. Drill instructors are not on your side, by the way. But I had a Sergeant Keeney teach me a motto that has literally stuck with me for all of these years. And he said, a good soldier is a prepared soldier. When I heard it, something inside of me resonated. I went, wow, like that That makes sense to me. And if you're watching today, it should make sense to you, right? It's not just about being a soldier. The same thing goes along with your life. You've got to be always ready, right? Check this out. I did a study recently and I showed that there's only about 3 million preppers right now in the US. Now that may sound like a lot, but it's slightly just over 1%. It's really not. That's an alarming wake-up call, right? That means if something happened to you today, right now, after this wonderful show, because we obviously want to finish it, but if something happened to you today, there's a good chance that a lot of you aren't ready. And that bothers me. That's what raises this internal inside of me that wants to help you, right? Yeah. Jim, Matt, and I, we had an amazing conversation the other day, and we want to get the word out. We don't want to have people get caught off guard. Check this out. Watch. Just over the last 50 years, the federal spending increased 6,698%. Federal spending for disasters increased almost 7,000%. Ladies, gentlemen, that's a huge indicator that things are going to happen.
Yep.
Right. And that's just 1953 to 2009. I guarantee you, based on the scamdemic and the last few things, it's probably pushing 10,000%. Yeah. It can't not happen. Those are the figures that I gathered just a few short years ago.
Wow.
Only 39% of people have basic emergency plans. That's not enough. That's not enough.
No.
75% through the pandemic, right? I don't know, probably call it scamdemic again, but it's only 75% of healthcare workers even claim to be prepared. They're not solidified. They're not prepared. They claim to be prepared. 44% of Americans don't even have a first aid kit in their home. I have one in every one of my vehicles. I have one in my off-road vehicle. I have one in my RV. I have 3 in my home. 44% of Americans don't even have one at all.
Wow. So that's an action item. I mean, getting a first aid kit. Tell us a little bit about your first aid kit.
Well, I wear contacts, right? I love glasses. I wear glasses, but I got contacts. That's something I need to have. I'll get more into that here in a little bit. I'll talk about what do you need? Do you have medicine? Do you need medicine? That should be in there. If you get injured, let's say a fire broke out, you tripped, fell, scratched your leg. Can you take care of that? No, then that's not a good thing. You should literally sit down and say, what do I need? Antiseptic, right? Antiseptic, bandages, medicine, eye care, eye health. You should have all of those items, betadine, alcohol, like I said, whatever you need to be sustained if you have an injury, because those are unexpected, but they do happen. In the military, in my 12 years, which I ain't even going to go there, but trust me, we got injured. It was part of our job. We knew it was going to happen. Every single one of us had a med kit on us right there because we knew we were going to need it. It wasn't, well, let's have it in case. We knew we were going to need it. So I want you to hear me on this. You need to have one of those.
Yeah.
You need to sit down and make a checklist for you, for your loved ones, for your kids, for your pets, right? You've got to have kits that are going to be fitting for your needs.
It makes me think about preparing for a fire in your home. And, as a kid in school, hearing about those type of things and then, go home and you work on your little plan with your family. But it's like, how many people actually do that today? I would bet we're probably in the less than 1% category again, where people actually take that stuff seriously and prepare in case that thing ever happens in their home. And the other thing would be, even just the fire extinguisher. How many people actually buy a fire extinguisher? I would again bet it's probably a very low percentage that actually own one of those things, if not multiple, so they can have them in a few places in their home just in case something ever went down that could give their family that much more time to get out of the house.
Sure.
Absolutely. And those fires, they come up. It's just the least expected. We had We used 2 fire extinguishers. My partners, Brian and Christy, did the other day because somebody was welding on the outside of their a shipping container, and on the inside, it's all sorts of storage. It's just loaded with stuff. And all of a sudden, the welding on the outside lit something on the inside. Boom! The whole thing goes up. And without those fire extinguishers handy, they would have lost tens of thousands, probably close to $100,000 worth of stuff. But instead, they lost like $1,500 worth of stuff. They just had a lot of cleaning to do, right? All the soot and everything. But those fire extinguishers saved the day. So it's a ridiculously simple insurance policy to have those within an arm's reach.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Sure. And I bet you those that have done the opposite of your example have had situations and didn't have the fire extinguisher. And that's my point. I guarantee all of them, 100% of them, wish that they had one, right?
Yep. Oh,
Yeah.
big time. Wow.
Here's another great topic. 42%, I did a study just last month, real fresh study. 42% of Americans don't even know the numbers to their immediate family phones. We live in a culture where everything is convenient. Well, you take that conveniency away. I almost said a bad word, but you're screwed.
Yes.
You can say
impassioned words here.
Well, I want to honor the audience as well, but think about that. My kids laugh at me. I know all my kids' phone numbers. I know my parents' phone numbers. I know my wife's phone numbers. I know everybody's phone number by heart because I am, and I choose to be prepared. But when I asked that to quite a few people, most of them didn't even know.
Yeah.
What if your phone died? What if your phone got crushed? What if you didn't have access to that? It raises the level of urgency or panic.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, just asking somebody else, can I use your phone to call my wife? Oh, I don't know my wife's phone number. Oh my gosh. Yep, that's brutal.
Yeah. Another one is critical documents. Over half of that same survey, or half of those people didn't even know what to do or where their critical documents were. They're important, and you should know where they're at, and they should always be ready to be grabbed if you need to get out of a situation that is going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
So you have a bug out bag or a bug in bag, I bet, or both.
I do, and that's actually one of the items I want to talk about. I don't call it a bug out bag. I call it a grab and go, because you're going to have to grab it and you're going to need to go. And most of the times it's within a split second. I have 7 of them. And they're strategically placed if I need to grab them and go, right? So I call them grab and go, but yeah, bug out bags, those are awesome. It's a great term. People are used to that, but I have a grab and go bag. I have 7 of them, and they have, lots of items in there. They have food supplies. They have everything I need, water purification. They have everything I need to go live on my own if needed.
Protection, maybe a fishing line, a fishing hook, things like that maybe.
Oh yeah.
A fun story. My grandpa, I was a little kid and we were building this new house in this place my parents were, and I was fishing on the dock and loving every bit of it. And a fish broke my line or whatever. And I was so sad. I know I was maybe 9 years old. And my grandpa pulled a fishing hook out of his wallet. And I thought he was the coolest guy that ever lived when he did that. I was so blown away.
I think he's the coolest guy on the planet.
Yeah.
That's what I'm talking about. That's exactly what I'm talking about. That's exactly what we're discussing today. There's going to come a time when you need something and you better have it versus wish you had it.
Mm-hmm.
Big difference.
Mm-hmm.
Amazing. Wow. What else could we do to be prepared?
So I wrote a book, and if you're watching today and you want a free copy, I give it away free. I don't believe in charging or for education. I love to see people thrive off information. Yeah, it's free. I love giving it out, and it goes over 22 fundamentals, 22 things that if you write these down, again, they're in the book. You don't got to do this if you don't want to. Just reach out to me on Facebook or whatever the case is. get it. I'll gladly send you a copy. But it goes over things like being organized, right? Panic is the one thing that will crush organization or being organized. Being organized, on the opposite of that, is overcoming panic. When panic sets in, you don't think right, you don't act right, you don't respond right. You need to be organized. Well, what does that mean?
Everybody has a plan until they get punched in the face.
Yeah, being organized is something that I can't even stress enough. I mean, just have a checklist. Have a dedicated area where you have those, grab and go bags or bug out bags. Have a select, area where things are there, a checklist, and you're ready to go. Be organized, right? The second thing I tell people is, don't get overwhelmed. Start out slowly, right? Get the fundamentals. Spend a week and, get your top items that I'm going to go over here real quick. Just get those items in an area. We have little areas in our home where we have stuff strategically placed, right? Start out slowly, right? Plan for things. Plan for power outages. I mean, I hate to say this, but I'm going to say it anyways. I live in California. Go ahead, both of you, give me garbage. It's okay. I get it all the time. But we've been going through power outages lately. We've been going through a lot of fire. Now we're experiencing high rates of flood. You got to plan for those things, right? You got to plan for those things. They go hand in hand with being prepared. So that means you need to determine, what's most likely that's going to happen in your current area, like Florida, hurricanes, California, earthquakes. Every location has different natural events that have been happening for years. This isn't new. Like, oh, Steve, Jim, Matt, why are you trying to tell this is history. You can study your current area and know what's probable for that area.
Yep.
Okay. You can determine what you can expect for that area where you live. How about create an emergency contact list? I love that. It's important. Have secondary, forms of communication. I don't know. I know you two guys will dig this, but we have ham radios. We have walkie-talkies. We have things that where if, the grid does go down, which by the way, all of us need to be aware of cyber attacks. The grid has a high probability, and I'm not going to get into that because there's not enough time, but I can assure you, based on me still being part of these select communities, that there is talk about grid lockdowns, cyber attacks. Well, if that happens, you got to have those emergency contact lists. You've got to have other forms of communication because it also develops a high level of panic. If you can't talk to your loved ones, if you can't communicate to your loved ones, you're going to panic. Are they okay? What's going on? Right?
Yeah.
The next one is one of my most favorite ones. I'm a geek. I'm going to geek out on you guys for a minute, right? Stockpile as much water, right? And learn how to purify. Like, I'm a geek. Matt, I see you starting to smile. Like, dude, I know how to purify water 19 different ways.
Wow. That's awesome.
Like, I love it. Like, I test, beat up, stretch, and push water purification systems to the limit. Because listen, water is the number one thing. It's the number one thing. Your body needs it. Your body's comprised of 80+% water. You need water. So you got to learn how to feed your body water. So you learn how to store up, grab garbage cans. I know some states, I don't know if I'll get in trouble for saying it. I don't know. It's stupid. Why would the government not want you to collect rainwater? That is the dumbest thing I've ever heard in my life. And I'm not going to go on a tangent, but maybe I shouldn't openly say this. But
yes, you should. Say everything.
Let's say that I have strategically 9 gigantic garbage cans that are clean and they capture God's rainwater because I love it. I want to make sure that I have it, right? And then I know how to treat it. I know how to make fire and build fires to purify it. But you've got to learn. There's lots of ways to purify your stored water, right?
Yep.
Jim and I just interviewed a couple people 2 weeks ago all about the myths and lies around rainwater harvesting and how valuable it is to actually be doing that and capturing the water that hits your property and what you can do with it, and actually how quality it is, especially compared to water that's coming through the city. And we talk about, why would they not want us to know about that? Well, there's a big chemical industry that contributes to the water system that we currently operate under. So that's probably one clue. A lot of money in those chemicals.
And everything that has to do with self-reliance, they want to take all of that out of the system.
Yeah.
That's exactly right. They want to control everything that has value for your survival, for your self-sufficiency. We'll get more into that here in a second, but I love where your headspace is at. That's why I love following you, Jim. That's why I love being a part of you guys, because you get it. You get it. Matt, I've known you for over a decade. I know you get it, right? Mm-hmm. So I'll keep going on. I talked a little bit about this earlier. Important documents. Get them in a safe place. I have a secondary containment for my important documents. It's in a fireproof safe rather. It's locked. It's ready. It's also in the form of a grab and go item. I can grab those. I know right where they're at. I don't have to guess about it. Because again, there's times where you're going to have literally minutes, not an hour, not a day. I'm talking minutes. So make sure that you have all of those important documents set aside and they're being protected. Another big.
Just say one thing about the safes that you can buy online or wherever that are little boxes. Now, those things are absolutely worthless. And here's what happened real quick. My wife was going to Costa Rica. Her passport was in the safe. The safe battery died, so she couldn't get in the safe, and she was leaving the next day for Costa Rica. She was in tears. I took the safe out to the garage. I opened it in 10 minutes with a hammer and a screwdriver.
Oh, boy.
I couldn't believe it. Yeah. So please keep going. I just don't want anybody to buy those safes. The other thing is, make sure you nail them down to the floor. If you are going to buy one of those, you got to screw them from the inside down to the floor. Otherwise, they're just like, that's where the money is.
That's exactly right. Another great topic that I love to teach people, and this is a very valuable one. You got to develop those comms, communications, platforms where you can communicate. And you also have to have an established transportation route or plan. Like my kids, my girls' husbands, my wife, my parents, we all have a rally point. If things go south, if shit hits the fan, we all know. We don't have to worry about if our phones work or don't work. We all know we're going there. We have a determined and a destination that we all know where it's at, how to get there, multiple ways to get there, right? Multiple ways to get there, because let's be honest, sometimes things get, traffic builds up or roads collapse. I mean, you got to understand, this is really something we all should contemplate and make sure that we have that travel route or that exit route planned. Huge.
And is this true? Because I've heard and I've seen maps where if there's a shutdown situation where in some states, some cities where they're, of course, more controlled by the dark side, there actually will be roadblocks in certain places where you're not allowed to go in certain ways. So having multiple ways to get to a secured location is so wise.
They've got, just as an example, around here, they've got barricades that can slide across on the ramps to take you to the main highways. So, that's a way to control flow of traffic. And, they're utilized sometimes in emergencies to prevent vehicles from getting onto these places. And that's all fine. But yeah, under a controlled circumstance, you got to have another way to go, because those roads can clog up extremely fast. And once you're on one of those parking lots, where you headed now? Right.
Well, here's the good thing, and here's some information that will allow you to breathe a little bit better based on the two examples that both of you gave. Is it's literally impossible for everyone to shut down every road.
Yeah.
Which is why you have to learn your surroundings and know those are other additional arterial routes. There's no way that they can shut off every single road. Yeah, Matt, that's a great example. They're going to go after the major highways. They're going to go after the major arterial routes, but it's impossible for them to shut down back roads, country roads, mountain roads. It's absolutely impossible. There wouldn't be enough time for them to go close them. There's not enough manpower for them to. So that's my point. You've got to learn those travel routes and have those transportation plans in place. Mm-hmm. Right?
Love it.
So the next one is, beans and rice. It's a comical, topic. It's funny, but I don't know about you guys, but I grew up where we had some rough times growing up as kids. We had some rough months growing up, man. I learned to live off of beans and rice, but there's a value from the prepper perspective about beans and rice. They last a long time. They hold a high shelf life. They're high in nutrients. They're full of calories. They protect and supply your nervous system. They give you energy. They're cheap. They're easy to stockpile up. It's not going to break your bank. Plus, it also curves your hungry belly. Because you got to understand, if you take water and you take food out of the equation, again, I'm talking about panic. What I'm trying to teach you guys is to prevent panic. When panic comes in, you don't think right. You don't function right. You're nervous. You're scared. Your family's scared. When everybody's hungry and they're thirsty, everything changes. And I always go back to my military years being overseas in very remote locations. We learned to stretch our rations. We learned to make sure that we had enough food to sustain us, because even in battle, you're high in adrenaline, you're running and gunning, literally running and gunning, and you still have to sustain your nutrition, or eventually you're gonna fail.
Yeah.
Now, food abundance. Yeah, it's you guys fit that mold perfectly.
And when people are hungry and thirsty, and when they're without their meds, those three things are going to cause massive chaos. The closer people are to cities, it seems like the worse it'll be in a lot of cities. And then the further out you are in the country, then you want to be prepared for the masses coming from the cities. Do you agree?
100%. You just hit the nail on the head. That's what this whole show is about today, is don't get caught off guard. Don't put yourself in a situation where you're going to panic, chaos. I love that you use that word. When people get into chaos, I mean, psychological clarity goes out the window.
Yeah.
Now, you guys got to understand, that's where my military background comes into play. I've been in very stressful, chaotic situations. I've been in situations where the average person would fold. So chaos, you're exactly right, Jim, and I thank you for sharing that, is don't put yourself in a situation where it's going to raise the level of chaos and wreak havoc on your family and your loved ones.
And it's a simple analogy. Desperate people do desperate things, right? And unfortunately, most, as we've mentioned, aren't prepared. And your average grocery store has less than 3 days worth of food. So let's just pretend something catastrophic went down. People start panicking. That 3 days of food now turns into one. And then what? Uh-oh, I have nothing. I'm desperate, right? And when you don't have food to feed your family, you think about your little children, you can't feed them. Well, now you're desperate. So what do you do in that desperate situation? You start doing desperate things. And that is where shit gets scary. That's where the prepared factor becomes extremely important. Are you ready when the desperation component kicks in? Because if you're not, that's when you're going to become someone else's food.
Exactly right. And, Matt, that's a really strong conversation too, because you got to understand, when people panic, people will do whatever it takes to feed themselves, even if that's getting into your supply, getting on your property, tapping into your forest food in abundance, program. They're gonna look and search and find out items that will cure their panic, that will feed their family, that will overcome that chaos. So that's what I love about your guys' program. I mean, it just fits the mold perfectly, which, in addition to beans and rice. Jennifer and I mean, again, people used to laugh and think you guys are crazy, but we would dry out all of our seeds from all of our vegetables. We created our own grab and go, seed bags. And it's like, people are like, what? You got a grab and go seed bag? Heck yeah. Because I refuse to be dependent on anyone. I love self-sufficiency. I love to look at my wife, my daughters, my grandkids and say, look, I got you. It's the reverse of chaotic. It's the reverse of any of that.
Yep. It sure is. I say this often. If we were the only ones growing food, would that be food security? No way. That would be hell, because people with kids whose kids are starving would be coming to us for food. So the best way to have food security is when our neighbors are also growing food. And then we keep extending that philosophy around the world. When everybody has food, then that is the full-on foundation of freedom on a global scale.
Again, Jim, that's what I love about you, man. You nailed it. If you know your community, if you know your neighbors, which is one of the items that I talk about in my book, is if it's collective and you know your neighbors and you know what we all have to offer, you have a higher chance of survival through the tough times.
Yep.
Another big item, and I know Matt personally for years, it's optimal physical condition. You've always got to be ready physically. Like, there's nothing worse. I hate to say it, but I'm going to say it anyways. I've seen people that are ill prepared physically. Like, to take care of yourself, you've got to be in shape. To get out of the situation, you've got to be in shape. To take care of, plant, grow, and nurture your own food supply, you've got to be in shape. That's probably should have been number one. You've got to be physically, in shape. So I'm always working towards optimal physical performance. I mean, I run 5 miles every single day. Age is just a number. I literally just did it before the show. I was excited to get on with you guys. I love you guys. I was excited to do this. I had so much energy that I actually went and ran 5 miles right before the show, because it just goes along with who I am. So.
Love it. Yeah, that is so important, to be mentally and physically prepared, right? Faith and courage. The thing that changed my life more than any one thing was just taking a deep breath and being present in my knowing that this is a temporary situation. My name is Gale. I'm simply the wind. The wind is a transformation of energy. That's what I am at this moment. I'm just the wind, and my intention is to blow the fire of freedom everywhere. But anyway, a little side note, I want to plug that. But I also know that I'm spirit. Right. So, because when we get into this thing about fearing death, then that is the control mechanism. When we're scared, we can be controlled. When we're in faith and courage, we cannot be controlled.
Exactly right.
Yeah. And I want to touch on one thing. When you brought up the food, and the buying food, starting to stock up and making sure you're prepared in that way. One thing that I didn't really ever consider until I received an email which brought this to my attention is that when we start preparing and buying food, oftentimes when we're thinking about it from a prepper standpoint, people are buying, things in cans or just cheaply made product. And the reason you don't want to do that is because that's not healthy food, right? It's you're in a survival state, but if all the food you stocked up on is full of shit and poisons and chemicals and stuff that's going to hurt you, you're not really any better off. Maybe you got some, false calories there to help sustain you for a few days. But if that's all your substance for weeks, months, and it's all garbage, that's not a good place to be either. So what I'm getting at there is pay attention as you're buying these foods to prepare yourself on what is it that you're buying. Don't resort to the cheapest things you can possibly get at the dollar store in a can just to feel like you've got some extra stuff. Apply what Steve is talking about there. Get yourself some sustenance with the rice and the beans, things that will last, have high nutrient density. Another great one is the potatoes. you know, the sweet potatoes and the regular potatoes. Did you know there's over 4,000 different types of potatoes? I had no idea, but 4,000 different types of potatoes. And those things have high nutrient density. They're also easy to regrow, right? You can take an old potato that starts getting the eyes, put them in the ground, and then you know you got more. So a couple good things there from a food protection mechanism to think about. Don't buy a bunch of shit, and get yourself some things that you can regrow.
Yeah. You brought up, it's probably a side note or maybe a side discussion or maybe even another podcast. Also know your supplier. I think that's the biggest thing. That's another reason why I love you guys. Know what you're growing, know where it's coming from. I mean, I support a store that's based here in the United States of America. They're not playing the governmente's games. They're not playing the inflation games. They're a manufacturer. They're not all about poisons and cheap chemicals. And gosh, I love helping people. I love giving. You know what this is all about, guys, today? It's about giving and teaching people options.
Yes.
The majority of people are so programmed. Watch Jim get fired up. Watch him get fired up. The world is programmed. Hey, go to Walmart. That's my place. I'm going to get everything there. I wouldn't step foot in that store if it was me. I mean, what's happened over the last couple of years with the pandemic. Can I go there, guys? Can I go there today?
Please. Yes.
Yeah. I had a great conversation with Matt, and then I had a great conversation with both of you the other day. It's like the jab comes out. It's never been tested. There's no backing on it. It rolls out in like a couple months, right? And everybody's worried about, oh, they're getting sick, and they are. Oh, people might die. They are, right? They're worried about all this stuff. But I teach people this. The government's been killing you for decades. And they're like, well, how was that? Laundry detergent, cleaners, bleach. I can go on and on and on. That's been killing people for years, for decades. And I'm like, get that stuff out of your house. Don't use it. Don't surround yourself with it. Get it out. There are options. And I see that the link's on here. Make the Patriot switch. There are options for you. Guys, these two awesome gentlemen teach you how to grow your own food. You don't have to worry about going to the store. I have options for you to buy products, essentials that you need without all the cancer-causing agents. Guys, you've got options here. You've got options here.
Big time. And one option I never use is going to a medical doctor. There's a book that came out a long time ago called Dead Doctors Don't Lie. It's freaking epic with the stats. People say that big pharma is like the third biggest cause of death. Bullshit. It's number one, because cancer and heart disease, diabetes, all of these things are a result, for the most part, by far the most part, of the chemicals that are produced by labs, by governmente, subsidized by governmente. Just a real quick positive note.
Go ahead.
Real quick positive note. There is a lot of stuff going on where the shield that the pharma has against liability is now being brought down, because they have found felonies over and over again in the process. And so the contract that the government has with big pharma, which is all one thing anyway, but now they're starting to break that veil because there's so many felonies committed. So therefore the contracts are invalid. So very soon there are going to be the biggest lawsuits in the history of the world, which are going to take down all of these poison producing elements in our society.
Yeah. Robert F. Kennedy has just won some suits around that, right?
Yep.
Yeah. Kudos to him.
Yeah. Don't take it from the three of us. Go do your homework.
Yep.
There's a lot of things that they can't suppress. They can't not tell you about. I mean, the millions of lawsuits with Johnson & Johnson. Just go do your homework. Matter of fact, I challenge you guys to go call up the Poison Control Center and ask them how many calls come in every year and what percentage of the calls are from household chemical reactions and ingestions. You will be massively blown away, shocked, shit yourself. And I promise you'll grab the closest box, put that shit in a box, get it out of your house, and probably call one of us and go, hey, what's that safer stuff that Steve was talking about? Trust and believe Knowledge is power. Gentlemen, please back me up on that. Knowledge is power.
Yes,
100%.
yes. Here's another piece of knowledge that most people don't know. As we talked about pharma and some of the regulatory agencies and being in bed with one another. Who owns the patent on the coronavirus? The CDC. Who owns the patent to all the testing of the coronavirus? Of the CDC. Fact. They own those patents. So they control who can actually look at the thing. Right? And when did that all come into play? Well, remember the first SARS and MERS outbreaks in the early 2000s? You know, all these things are available to be saw if you will look.
It's absolutely mind-blowing. So corona means crown and virus is poison. The king's poison, and the former 2 kings ago, can't remember his name, he's a psychopath. He said, if I could come back as a virus and kill the world, that's what I'd do. What?
Yeah.
We're in a
Coronavirus
spiritual
industrial
battle.
complex.
This is a spiritual war in my knowing. And then the solution is also with spirit, right? If that's the war to try to dumb us down and take spirit out of our lives, then the exact opposite of that is the win of this battle.
Yeah, knowledge is definitely power. It's definitely power. And if you want to know, Matt said it perfectly. It's right in front of you. What we're trying to teach you guys is to be prepared. One of the first things we talked about today was not trust the governmente. They're not on your side. They're not for you. They want to control you. And we don't want that for you. None of us, not all 3 of us, do not want that for you. We're giving you options to be self-sufficient, be prepared, and live life on your terms the way God intended it. Period.
Can you tell us your wake-up story? Your red pill, if there was a moment or a series of moments. Those are always so valuable because a lot of people feel shame that they didn't know what was happening. And now they're shameful because they either got injected or they got their kids injected. I've got daughters that were vaccinated because I didn't know. And for a while, I felt shame about that. But I also know one thing, spirit is infinitely more powerful than those poisons, which is why they need to keep poisoning us. So let's take the shame out of it. So do you remember, are you aware of a specific thing that helped you really wake to? Okay, let's hear them.
So the first one was being 18 years old, passed my pipeline, got selected to go to survival school. I was blindfolded. I was in a helicopter. I was flown into a very remote location. It was 17 degrees, which is probably warm for Matt, not for you and I, but warm for Matt. It was 17 degrees. There was probably 4 or 5 feet of snow on the ground. I mentioned blindfold. I was given 2 days worth of rations or food, whatever you want to call. And I was literally told that I need to be at this location. I was given a map. I was told I need to be at this location. I had 7 days to get there. And it was a very treacherous terrain. And I'm very competitive. Like, I'm competitive, right? Matt and I, that's probably one of the first things that drew Matt and I close together as buddies. Like, we're both extremely competitive. So here I am, 18 years old. I'm ill prepared. I've never been in a survival situation. And I was told that, by the way, there was several teams and we had to compete. And I didn't want to come in last. So I learned, I was educated on my own. I was forced to develop, nurture my brain to adapt to my environment that I was, obviously I volunteered to go there, but I didn't pick the area. I would have chose Florida. I would have chose the middle of summer. I would have chose next to a river where I didn't have any of that. That was my first wake-up call. By the way, we came in second place. And the only reason we came in second is because we made one wrong turn. We had to go over one more ridge, which caused us to lose a little bit of time. But I learned how to trap. I learned how to eat squirrel. I learned how to filter water through leaves and small bushes. And I learned at a very rapid rate because my survival depended on it. And I fell in love with it because I don't ever want to be in another situation like that in my life.
Yeah.
So, first wake-up call. Second wake-up call, my mother, she got cancer. And as we discussed today, I want to know. I want to be in the know. Have you ever heard that? If you're watching today, chat. I don't know if you can even chat. Can you comment? Hit the. Have you ever heard the expression "be in the know"? I wanted to be in the know. So I go to the doctors, and I'm a dick, not in a bad way. I just want to know. I'm going to draw out. I'm going to pull the information. I want to know: is this hereditary? What caused it? Can I get it? What made her get it? Is it beatable? And the doctor literally looked at me and he goes, "You really want to know?" I go, "Yeah." He said, "It's all, hey guys, I don't know, man, if you guys are ready for this or not." He said, "It's all environmental." And I literally lost my shit because doctors aren't programmed to tell you that. They're not designed, they're not schooled, they're not educated to tell you. For some crazy, amazing reason, he told me the truth. And he said it's all environmental. Wow. I said, well, what do you mean? He said, everything we're exposed to, fumes, pollutants, chemicals in our home. We talked a little bit about that earlier, and I could go into that all day long. But you got to understand, if you can reduce, minimize, or the three of us would love for you to rid yourself of the exposure to those environmental chemicals, you're going to live a longer, better life. So naturally, my mind shifted. It was just another thing that I wanted to follow. I'm very educated on it. I know what's in most people's homes, and I love to teach people that shit will kill you. Yeah. And it almost killed my mother. We've been battling it for 7 years, and praise God, today she's in remission. And it's because we've got all of that stuff out of her home. Those are my 2 wake-up calls, and they're big. See the gray hair?
Yeah, right there.
Yeah, it's there.
Wow. Oh, that is beautiful, my friend.
Yeah.
There's more things, but again, the book's for free. Reach out to me. I'd love to give it to you. There's a lot of things that you need to learn. We talked about getting to know your neighbors, create a survival library, get a hold of these guys right here and let them teach you how to be self-sufficient. I strongly suggest it. I'm behind it. I support it. It's huge. Make sure that you have those grab and goes or bug out bags. Learn the basics of first aid and survival. I'm a big teacher on survival. I teach groups every single year how to survive. Well, people ask why would you want that? And my answer is, why wouldn't you want to know that?
I bet that's incredibly fun. I mean, it would be a very memorable experience, like an adventure, to work with you and to learn those things. So how do people find you when they want to engage with you, your services, and learn these amazingly valuable techniques and knowledge?
Although I despise social media, I'm very active on social media. It's a great way to reach people. It's a great way to connect with people. It's a great way to connect with people. You can look me up on Facebook. Give me a follow, Steve Morgan, Facebook. Instagram, a Prepared Patriot. You can click this link right here, make the Patriot switch from what you're doing now to things that will extend your lifespan. There's lots of ways to get a hold of me, but I would be honored to help each and every one of you. But the best thing to do, if it bothers you, if what we shared with you today resonates with you, if you feel yourself inspired and hungry and seek knowledge and wisdom, reach out to them, reach out to me. I know collectively we would love to impact your life for the better.
Yeah. And if you do want to reach out to us to get a hold of Steve, feel free to do so. I can connect you directly with him, knowing the guy about 12 years now, and just a phenomenal man who really has so much love in his heart and wants to share what's possible with you. His experience, 30 plus years teaching people how to survive in the wilderness, and the value that comes from that, even though you may not think so because you've been in such a comfortable position for so long. As soon as things are uncomfortable, what are you going to do? Right? That analogy of you got a plan till you get punched in the face. It's so apparent. Now, I've been in many fights in my life as a younger man, and no matter the big guy that was there, it didn't matter. You get that punch in the face and everything goes out the window. And personally, I think I did well in fighting because I was able to stay calm in that rough period. And that is what being prepared does. It gives you the ability to slow your mind down, think logically. And I would say that a lot of this is just a guess, but I would imagine a lot of people who excel in combat sports and in the military, when they get in those high pressure situations, time does slow down for them. Things seem to move slower, even though it's at a rapid rate with incredible stress. That ability to calm the mind and breathe and slow down, that things physically around them appear to slow down. It's like they end up in that high level flow state. Would I be right on that, Steve?
Yeah, we call it a controlled environment. And here's the good news. You, me, Matt, Jim, we all have the ability to control our environment. Control it. Control the outcome, control the situation. And by the way, the more controlled you are, the more prepared you are, well, you alleviate chaos and disruption and panic. So you have the ability. We're giving you guys the tools to control your environment.
Boom. Wow.
Boom.
Thank you so much, my friend. I can't wait to meet you in person and hang out with you here at Galt's Landing or wherever else we might be meeting. But I love you, man. You're just a great gift to our planet and this time that we're living right now.
I think, Jim, we're going to go do a survival course with Steve.
That sounds amazing. I'd love to. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, Steve, hey, buddy, thanks so much for coming on the show today. It was an honor to have you here. And again, thank you for everything you're doing to inspire others, help them be prepared, and for just being an all-around incredible human being, man. It's awesome to be your brother and call you a friend.
Thank you. Thank you both for the opportunity. I love you both, respect you both, and I support you both. Thank you for having me on.
Thanks, brother. Have a good one, everybody. If anybody out there listening wants to grow food right now, then go on our website, foodforestabundance.com. We have a free consult with a professional grower, a permaculture professional. And you can talk with them. You can ask them any questions you want. Their intention is to inspire and empower you to grow food. So check us out. And thank you again, everybody. Have a great day.
I think we're going to try and, hey, Jim Gale Show listeners, again, thank you for tuning in. We love having you here. We're so honored. And, I want to give you a little bit of exciting news. We've decided to offer complimentary food forest strategy sessions with a certified permaculture designer. These are 30-minute sessions where you get to sit down with someone who can really help you with a strategy for your own property. It's a great chance for you to ask some questions and learn and just really to dig into what's possible. This is 30 minutes with someone who's certified, knows all about permaculture and what's possible using this incredible science and working with nature. So head over to foodforestabundance.com and schedule your 30-minute food forest strategy session today. Again, that's foodforestabundance.com. And remember, get yourself registered for that 30-minute strategy session. And for doing so, we're going to give you a $100 coupon as well. So get over there, have some fun, learn about what's possible for you and your own property, and let's get growing some food. Thanks again for tuning in to the Jim Gale Show.